And we're back.
We're live.
We're live. Good morning, everybody.
Yep, it's morning here, so we'll say good
How was
morning
your
to you.
week? Go on. How was it? Tell us all about
It's
it.
not a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
We'll
give a nice long pause.
Yeah.
So you can tell us all about your week. Go ahead. Oh. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, that's all right. That's pretty good. Okay, good. Well, so overall, a good week. Glad to hear it.
Nice. You got a boring life, dude. Pick it up. So, we're back. It's time to do it again. Last time we talked about being a mouth, not being a loser, and it just gets my craw that
Grinds my gears.
really grinds my gears that the definition of not being a loser is multiple sexual partners. It's real backwards. I got a text from Chase yesterday.
Yeah.
About you.
Oh,
He was listening to the most recent episode, or not the most recent episode. He was listening to the episode from the previous 2 weeks ago, and you said Judeo-Christian in the episode at some point, and he texted me. I'll just read you the text. I don't want to put words in his mouth, so I'll just read you the exact quote. He said, "If Jason says Judeo-Christian one more time on the podcast, I'm going to shoot him with meth and make him watch 12 hours of Europa: The Last Battle in one sitting." It's
Okay.
a unique threat. I
yeah,
thought that was
that's very
interesting.
specific and a little scary.
A little scary. I don't even know. What is Europa: The Last Battle?
I don't know.
Whatever.
I guess I'll find out if I say Judeo-Christian one more time. Judeo-Christian? I guess I'm in for it now.
Yeah, you're in for it.
A few weeks from now when this airs anyway.
Yeah, I just told him. I said, I've thought to correct him, but I don't have the heart. I also enjoy that it bothers you, so I let it go.
So he's saying I'm incorrect then.
Well, because the idea is, and this is the reason that when I hear people say Judeo-Christian, it makes me go like, ugh, is because I think I would be more comfortable with like a term like the sort of Hebrew Christian sort of idea, just because the word Jew has been co-opted by a group of people who do not have an ethnic heritage to the Hebrew people.
Okay.
And the people now today that use the word Jew are a little sneaky. And so I just am remiss to have Talmudic Judaism connected with our worldview, which I don't know if that's Chase's beef. I think Chase would have a more like a logical sort of theological, Chase is. So
I'll try to
like
drop it in a little speech at the Brotherhood meeting tonight.
You should say it as
I'll be like the
many
Judeo-Christian ethic.
Yeah, dude, you have to. Dude, as many times as you
And
possibly
then just cast
can.
a glance
Don't
over
even,
at him. Just make eye contact.
Yeah, let him know you know what's up. Yeah, you got to hit him with that. Yes, dude, please. It's funny. That's good. You should definitely do that. You should do it like 8 times. You should suggest that we put it somewhere like in the official language for the organization.
Ooh, or hey guys, I have a suggestion for the name of the Brotherhood. What if we call it the Jew Bros?
Yeah.
The Judeo-Christian Brotherhood?
Yes, dude, hit him with that. Oh,
because that's what we're all about.
That is what we're all about. We're all about Judeo-Christian values. Yeah, hit him with that.
How about we just call ourselves the Jews?
The Jews. Oh, man.
What is that? There's that one. Is it a baseball team? The Bears.
The Bears. Is it?
That's what I always think of when I think
the Bears.
Jews.
Yeah, the Jews. That's pretty good. The Bears, I think in that skit, they're talking about the Bears, the football team, I think.
Okay.
The Chicago Bears. Because they're from Chicago, right? That's the thing that they're
I think so.
Like fat guys from Chicago. If that's the case, then yes, it's the Bear. It's the Chicago Bears.
The Bears.
I hope the Bears are from
I
Chicago.
just remember Paul Rudd in, what is that? I Love You, Man. Have you seen that movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
Yes.
Anyway, but I think he's a little intoxicated, but then something about the Bears comes up or whatever, but he's like, the Bears. Just Paul Rudd's delivery of it was fantastic.
Oh, man. I wish Paul Rudd wasn't such a fag. That would be He'd be great. He'd be a great person to like. Oh well.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
He's a likable person on the screen anyway. I don't know anything about him otherwise.
He's just the same as everybody else in that world.
That's too bad.
Yeah. Sucks. But anyways.
I have read there was a great G.K. Chesterton quote in the Benedict option book.
Yes.
Where he says, dead things flow with the stream, or, go with the flow. Because only a live thing swims against it.
Yes.
It's a fantastic and very Chesterton.
Yes. Yeah, my favorite Chesterton quote of all time is at the very beginning of Everlasting Man, where he talks about, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's the idea that a young man may, in an attempt to find adventure, he may leave his home going to search for giants and giant things, and then get far enough from his house just to turn around and look back at it and realize that his house has been sitting on the belly of a giant the whole time.
Oh.
That'll like...
I like that.
That dude, yeah. That'll like, if you think about that long enough, you start crying.
Yeah.
I hit my boy with that, the kid that came up to visit us.
Yeah.
We were in the truck. We were driving. So I don't remember where we were driving, but I hit him with that quote, and he was like, damn, dude. Like, he's like, that's like reach under the sunglasses, rubbing his eyes, being like, dude, don't say that to me.
Yeah. Trying to drive here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an all-timer. Chesterton's got so many of those, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a literary genius.
Yes.
I haven't even read very much of him. Really hardly any at all. I've heard quotes of his.
I've got
and references
Man
and many
down.
other.
Yeah, a few of them. I got a couple.
I started Orthodoxy. I haven't finished it.
Okay.
That's a thin book.
Yeah, that is true. It is a thin book. Yeah. I just hit the, in Lord of the Rings, I'm on the Twin Towers. I'm where Merry and Pippin are chilling with Treebeard.
Mm-hmm. Which Chesterton didn't write.
No, Chesterton. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, let's clarify that we both know that G.K. Chesterton did not write Lord of the Rings. We know that was Tolkien. But the point,
he was just an advisor.
Yeah,
he was on the board.
He was on the board. I was bringing up Lord of the Rings because we were thinking about great quotes. That's why I was bringing it up, not because I thought Chesterton wrote Lord of the Rings. But Treebeard's just got so many of those great, like, always talking about not saying things too hastily. Mm-hmm. Like every second time he talks, he's like, literally, hey, slow down, take a breath. He asks Merry and Pippin to tell him the story. He like lays down on a bed and he's like, all right, I'm going to lay down. It's very funny because he's like, I'm going to lay down so that I don't fall asleep. You tell me this story. You tell me the story now, and don't be too hasty with it. Tell me the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And so they tell him the whole story, and he's like, okay, great. And then he takes he like goes and gets some like tree alcohol and drinks the tree alcohol. And then he's like, I'm going to go to sleep. You guys can stand wherever you want. And they're like, stand. And he's like, how do you sleep? And they're like, we lay down. And he was like, oh yeah, of course you do. Okay, well, I'm going to go to sleep. And then he walks outside into the rain and puts his hands over his head and falls asleep. Fantastic, just truly fantastic stuff.
I need to read it.
Yeah, it's so good.
My mom read those to me when I was young, probably like 13 or so.
Yeah.
And so I've heard them, but I haven't ever read them in their entirety myself.
Yeah, I think there's I don't know if this is going to be a bugaboo for people that are listening to this, but it might even be for you. I don't know. But there's a clinical process you can do called EMDR, emotional. What is EMDR? Emotional.
Mental.
What's the M? What's M for?
Mental.
No. Oh no, not emotional. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So the idea is that, I think, so I'm about to dive into a world I don't fully understand, so forgive me if I say something errant here. But the idea effectively is that when you're sleeping, you go into a REM cycle while you're dreaming, right? So your eyes are moving back and forth. Mm-hmm. You can induce that exact same process by moving your eyes back and forth while you're awake and thinking of memories from your past that are either negative or positive, and reprocess them so that you either become kind of removed from that memory and it no longer affects you, or you can...
As a way to cope with trauma?
Yeah. And it's a very, very studied...
very interesting.
Yeah, it's got a lot of literature, a lot of research. It's a very established thing, and so you can use it to heal yourself. Well, I wouldn't say heal yourself, but you can. It's just one of those things. It's one of the things God
work
put in
your way through things.
Yeah, yeah. It's just one of the medical treatments God allowed us to discover that can, you can use to treat yourself for certain ailments. Anyways, I have a theory, which is that an important part of you reading fiction and gleaning, like if it's literary, like The Lord of the Rings, the real value in reading that stuff is that there's something there's something that's going to be communicated by the story that could not possibly be communicated any other way. So you can't just say it plainly.
Okay.
And so you have to tell a story. You have to do what Jesus was doing.
Sounds very much like Andy Wilson kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, this is part of the reason why I'm so passionate about writing fiction, is that if there's an idea that can't be communicated plainly, you have to nest it in a story in order to effectively kind of make a metaphor for it. And when you're reading, your eyes are moving back and forth. So you're in a state, you induce a state of like hypnosis almost while you're reading a book.
That absorbs you and consumes your mind.
Right. And then you're engaging with this thing that also is a sort of ephemeral narrative tale that's trying to give you ideas that you could not otherwise understand unless you were engaging with them.
I wonder if the length of the lines has anything to do with
maybe
how much you can induce that, or how engrossed you would be if they're shorter lines. You're moving back and forth quicker.
Yeah, I don't know.
That would be an interesting study.
I know with EMDR, you don't even have to necessarily move your eye. I think your eyes will move no matter what you do, but like the way I do EMDR is I tap my chest back and forth like this.
Okay.
And I close my eyes like that.
Okay. My wife has has gone through some therapy that had something to do with, there was movement like that, tapping or something like that.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. I don't know if she fully explained it, or it's been a few years now, but it was something about the movement helped with processing or recalling past events.
Yeah. Yeah. It very, very well may have been EMDR.
And it helped a lot. Well, the therapist anyway helped.
Yeah. That's another, we can make that point before we dive into the topic for today. There's a lot of hate for therapy at least in my exposure, like in the Christian world, even to some of our immediate, like the dudes in our crew, like roll their eyes at therapy.
Okay.
Which I think it's fair to do, kind of, because bad therapists.
There's a lot of bad therapy.
There's more bad therapists than there are good therapists.
Yes.
And bad therapists are really, really, really detrimental to your life.
Yeah.
They will increase the misery and suffering in your life by orders of magnitude.
Talking about our last episode, the individualism and what you need to do to protect you. So protecting you is the most important thing.
Right. Certainly. Yeah. And a good therapist, though, on the other hand, is profoundly helpful to your life.
Yes.
A good therapist will revolutionize the way you live, deepen your faith. Yeah.
So I would say that the therapist needs to be a wise and educated Christian therapist.
Yeah, I don't know, because I have a therapist who's incredible.
Okay.
One of the most competent people I've ever met, and my work with him has only deepened my faith. Like, it has made me way more Christian than I've ever been, and he is not a believer.
Okay.
But he constantly, because he's a good therapist, he will go extract what he thinks is helpful for me to hear from the Bible. And so he constantly references, because he's a good therapist. So he engages me.
He reads the Bible and he's
he knows
Bible?
He knows a lot about what's in the Bible because he's a good therapist. So he knows like a lot about the kind of
that's very interesting.
Yeah, religions people will like nest their identities in. He wants to know about them because they're really good. He was one of the first times we ever met. I told him I was a believer, and I told him it was a big part of my life, and he got very excited. And he was like, "Oh, okay, great, fantastic." So because in his mind, it's a fantastic way to nest.
Right, all this stuff.
Yeah. And so we talk, like the way we talk many times is in very Christian nomenclature.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah.
That seems like a rarity.
Yeah.
I'd say in general, you need someone who at the least understands your worldview and supports it.
Yeah, I would say that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, it is.
Because if they don't, their own worldview will influence the direction they're leading you.
Yeah,
and what the priorities are. And if the priority is because I think the priority of the world is to defend yourself and protect yourself, and not necessarily pursue true healing of relationship. They'll say, well, this relationship was damaging to you. Maybe you need to separate yourself from that person. As opposed to seeking healing with that person, the best thing for you to do, since you're so hurt, is to never interact with that person.
Yes. Yeah, certainly.
That's the negative side of it that I've experienced.
You've experienced, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I think you are right to say that it is probably rare to find a good therapist in general. And so you ought to just look for a therapist who's a Christian. Because it's
not to say that, I mean, some of them are lousy because they'll maybe just spout scripture at you without much understanding.
Yeah.
And without the deeper knowledge of how the body and mind work.
Yeah.
And how relationships work. If all they do is quote verses at you without explanation or actually help you work through things using that background of that foundation of biblical Christianity, then it's going to lead you in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and I would
99% of the time.
I would say that
you've got a 1% therapist, maybe.
Right. Yeah, 1%er for sure. Yeah, I would say common grace has allowed pagan and secular scientists to discover some very amazing truths about reality, about the reality God created, and that principle extends not just to the material world, but also to the spiritual and mental world. So a secular or pagan person could still discern truths that God has instilled into the world through observation.
Yes.
And so the thing I would suggest to people, the one suggestion I got about therapy that I think is tremendous is that the best therapists are going to be LCSWs. Licensed professional, or LCSW is licensed counseling social worker or something like that. But that particular style of training seems to breed very good therapists. Okay. So, but they're very hard to find, LCSWs. So but I would just suggest if you're ever looking for a therapist, prioritize looking for an LCSW. That was specifically what I was looking for when I looked for my therapist, and he was like the first therapist I ever found. So he was just like right off the rip, just like an amazing guy. So there's that. Therapy can be, you just need to really guard your heart, really guard your heart when you're engaging with someone who's a mechanic for the mind, because they can really screw you up if you're not careful. So that's fun. That's a nice, fun little rabbit hole. What were we going to talk about? Oh yeah, we were going to talk about
how to prepare yourself, how to find the right woman.
Yes.
Or prepare yourself to be the kind of man that nets a good woman.
Yeah, that nets a good woman.
When you go fishing, you toss your rod in, you toss your hook in the water. What are you going to pull in?
Yeah, a tire or a beautiful...
or a trout.
Yeah, or a trout, yeah.
A prize-winning trout.
Yeah.
I'm sure women will appreciate being compared to fish.
I think my wife will really enjoy it, yeah. Very scaly.
Big glossy eyes.
Yeah. Big, stupid, non-thinking, glossy eyes.
The gaping mouth. Ah. Just gasping in the air.
Yeah, maybe this is, babe, don't listen to this one. Just go ahead and turn this one off.
Backtrack 15 seconds and forget.
I promise you're not a fish.
But if you were, you'd be the best.
Yeah, if you were
a red snapper,
it'd be beautiful.
You're like a king salmon.
Yes, amazing Alaskan caught wild salmon. The thing I'll say before we dive into this deeply is that Jason and I both have very, I would say, industrious, intelligent, beautiful lives. And so there may be some referencing that we make to our own lives. I promise we're not bragging. It just, we did it. Like we won this particular competition.
God gave us.
God gave us some amazing women. And so
I definitely tried to join myself to to tires a few times.
Yeah, me too.
I tried to marry a tire.
I got a couple tires in there as well. Yeah, I also tried to marry a tire.
Now they're back in the stream.
Oh boy, yeah. doing
the river, doing their tire thing.
Yeah, doing what tires do, which is sit on the bottom of the lake collecting muck.
Collecting muck.
Yeah. So so we're not bragging. We're just we'll be talking about maybe some of the things that we did that were helpful and successful in the mindset changes that happened to us that helped us become attractive to the women that we ended up marrying. And that's that. To all that to say, all right. So the one distinction I want to make sure that we reiterate here is that the girl, if you have this idea in your head that girls are overly complex or not worth engaging with, or are disloyal or snaky in some way, that this is an enemy combatant that you're trying to engage with, you got some work to do. You got to get your head right. You got to understand that women are the other half of God's image, and are incredibly valuable, make amazing.
You're incomplete without them.
Yeah, you're incomplete without them. They make amazing partners. So just remember that as we continue. The first thing that I would want to talk about is the this sort of feedback loop that guys can get in of resentment. So you can get really, really twisted up, man. And once you get twisted up, that girls can smell that on you. Like, it's weird. It's like they can sense that you're a twisted little maggot. And when you come up to them and you're like, nah, if you're on 4chan going, girls are all Stacy's, they're all roasty, used up, they're whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, and then you try to go out and talk to some girl who's working the cash register at your favorite store or whatever. She's going to smell on you that you're a little twisted dork, and she's not going to want to talk to you. So you have to, in order to find a girl to love, you have to first enjoy and love girls in general. You can't hate women and also expect to have one like you, which I feel like is that shouldn't need to be said, but it kind of is needed to be said. So we'll say that. That's my first
ideally,
one.
nothing on this podcast should ever need to be said.
That's true. It shouldn't even have to exist, but
yeah,
here we are.
You're making us do all this work.
Yeah. Girls are, I'll kick it off. I'll say this, and then you can give me your feedback, Jason, on what you think. I think girls are attracted to, one of the things girls are attracted to is guys with purpose and ambition. But I think even more than that, the thing that precedes purpose and ambition, I would say, is like an optimistic, vivacious outlook on life. So a couple years ago, I asked my wife, when my wife and I met, she had graduated from college. She had a good job at a very large tech company, good paying job. She could kind of come and go from the office as she pleased. It was a very large company. If I said the name of it, you would know the name. And she was a successful person. Okay. She was an established human being in her mid-20s. She was doing good.
Didn't need no man.
She didn't think that, but
she was able to support herself.
Yeah, she's able to support herself. Yeah, she's able to support herself. And when we met, I was I believe I dropped out of college at that point. I was either about to or I had, and I was working as a line cook at a nice fancy Japanese restaurant in Austin. And I had in my head two career paths, which was writer or chef, both of which don't pay a lot and require you to be. It's retard stuff. Is the point I'm trying to make. Is like I was an unsuccessful person pursuing unsuccessful careers that were there was a low probability of success, and even if you did succeed, they didn't pay a lot. So the idea that I had a bright future ahead of me was,
unless you hit the 0.5%.
Yeah, unless I'm
top niche.
Yeah, exactly. Unless
you got your own show, you got your 5-star restaurant.
Exactly. Unless I've become famous,
which can go away very quickly.
Very quickly. Yeah, very quickly. Unless I become famous, there's really no way for me to make
repeat New York bestseller.
Yeah,
level writer.
Yeah, and so I asked her a few years ago, why, knowing that, knowing who I was, seeing my on-paper resume,
Right.
why spend a moment with me? And she said, because I was so full of life. Which is very
That's a great compliment.
Yeah. And so you have to, this idea that women are, they're not, what's the word when you are marrying for material gain?
Gold digger?
Sure. Yeah. There's a technical term for it. There's a technical term for it, but we can use gold digger. The idea that women are these like gold digging.
She ain't messing with no broke.
Yeah, she ain't. Well, she was. She wasn't messing with a broke nigga. She was definitely messing with a broke boy. As broke as anybody could be. I think my parents were helping me pay rent. The point I'm trying to make is that girls are not these sort of cynical, conniving lizards looking to gain status and material by marrying you. That is, they are human beings who have beliefs and needs just like you are. And if you are a vivacious, hopeful, happy person, they will be attracted to you. I have one of my fraternity brothers is as ugly as you could possibly be. Skinny, fat, idiot.
Skinny fat?
Skinny, fat, dumb, hook-nosed Greek kid.
What is skinny fat?
Skinny fat is when you are skinny, but you're also not like, you have like a belly.
Oh.
And you have like, there's just like
So
fat.
Weight's all in the wrong places.
Right. Yeah. But you are kind of skinny. His girl that he's with now, that he will inevitably, I hope will inevitably marry, is one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. And she, from the time they met, she was in love with him. I was there when they met the first time, and I knew, like, I was like, I would sit with him in the frat house. I'd sit with him and be like, dude, why are you not dating her? And he'd be like, I don't want a girlfriend, dude. I'd be like, you are an idiot, bro. She's gonna leave and go with someone else if you don't jump on this. And he didn't, and she left. But, through God's grace, she circled back around and they found each other again. So, but the point I'm trying to make is that she is well outside of his league.
Yeah.
But she's not, because he is one of the funnest, funniest, happiest people I've ever met. Mm-hmm. He's just, it's such a weight off being around him, because he's just so charismatic and he's just such a joy to be around. Everything he says is, you're just like, dude, what? How on earth did you get that? Like, he's just a great person, and so he's always had very beautiful women be very interested in him, and so I think that's a huge part of what it is to attract a woman to you, is to be this optimistic, happy person who's full of life, who enjoys their day-to-day life. If you don't enjoy your day-to-day life, I think you're going to have a hard time. And that's not even, you don't necessarily, like, when I met my wife, I didn't really like my job, and I was very anxious, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I didn't really have, I was really struggling with my identity. I was a new Christian, and I was dealing with all the shame and guilt that came with having a conscience for the first time. And
waking up to what your life was.
Yeah, waking up to what my life was.
Yeah,
and
conscience coming awake is like an arm that was falling asleep, and it's prickling and burning.
Dude, it's so bad. I think the most I've ever had trouble with, like, substance abuse was directly after I got saved. Because I was just like, what does this feel? It was like in the Grinch, when he gets a heart
so much?
Yeah, when he gets a heart as the Grinch, he's like, what is happening to me? He's like panicking. It was like that. It was like that.
What an honest and good portrayal in an old cartoon.
Yes.
Of how deep and moving is that?
Yeah, right?
In such a simple little cartoon.
Exactly.
Like, what truth they put into that.
Yeah.
The writers and illustrators portraying that sort of thing.
Yeah,
amazing.
So beautiful. Yeah, it's so
the Grinch.
The Grinch. Yeah, the Grinch. Yeah.
That's why it's endeavored.
Yeah.
That's why it's still around.
Yeah.
People love it.
People do love it.
They might not realize why.
But that's stories, man. That's why stories are so effective.
Yep.
So and then I'll say this one thing, and then I'll turn it over to you for comments. Recently, right before I got this promotion that I got, I was having a really tough time. I think I've talked to you a little bit about this. I was having a really, really tough time.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand what God wanted from me. And I still don't, but I've accepted that I can't know, because I'll mess it up if he tells me. But I was really, really struggling, and I told Emily that it felt like my light was going out, because I do feel like I have this. One of the things that my dad passed down to me was that there's this eternal fire, this little burning flame, and there's no matter how bad things get, I've never ever felt. I've never given up. I've never felt like things are really that bad.
Okay.
And I felt, I think, the closest I've ever felt to the fire going out, and my wife was distraught. Like, I shouldn't have said that to her. Like, it sent her into a spiral, because that fire is the reason why she married me.
Right. So she was losing her husband. She was afraid
yeah, effectively. And so it was really upsetting.
You were in danger of becoming not the person you were.
Right. And I never was really in danger of that. I just thought maybe I was. But
sure.
And she did a really good job of coming alongside me. Like, she didn't.
As a good wife should, as a good woman will.
Right.
She's going to keep that fire alive.
Yeah, she did. And she did for almost a year. It was she put the family on her back in a lot of ways. Thank goodness. It was only a small part of that year that we had my daughter around for that, because I think it would have been a lot harder for her to do that if my daughter was present while that was going on. And so that was again, the point I'm bringing that up is because it's so important to my wife, who is by every standard, like, very beautiful, very intelligent, incredibly industrious. There isn't somebody that works harder than my wife. It is very important that to her, that I have this sort of wellspring of life coming from me. So anyways, just wanted to mention that, as a kind of way to reiterate the point I'm ultimately trying to make. But anyways, yeah. So what are your thoughts, Jason? What is the thing you think is the primary sort of coal that stoked Emily's fire when she saw you, when you guys met?
Well, Emily was not interested in me at first. I think she had just gotten dealing with kind of a stalkerish guy.
Yeah.
Who I had actually gone to school with.
Nice.
And looked like a little bit. We were both a similar build and height. I had like curly hair.
Yeah.
Like he did.
Yeah.
And so she was kind of like, oh no, not again.
Yeah.
Not at all interested. And I started talking to Devin,
Yeah.
because I was interested in her. So I was like, hey, Devin, what's up?
She asked about me? Did she ever ask about me?
I hope I wasn't that obvious. I wasn't outright about it anyway. We did a group hangout with like my brother and his wife and Emily and her brother. Like, went to Portland. Really great food scene in Portland back then.
Yeah.
Probably deteriorated now, but it was good.
Yeah.
Before George Floyd.
Now it's just whatever rats homeless people are cooking. That's the food
That's
scene in Portland.
Food scene. You wouldn't believe how many ways you can fricassee a rat. No, I'm not sure exactly what it was. I do know. It was, we were talking and I mentioned that I really just wanted a family.
Yeah.
That I'd always wanted a family.
Yeah.
I think that's what got her.
Okay.
And because I like insisted on paying for her food. We weren't dating, but I managed to get with her in the line at the ice cream shop and then at the burger shop afterwards, and managed to let her order first, basically.
Yeah,
and
played a little chess, huh?
Yes, I played a little chess and
Yeah.
and managed to pay for both of her ice cream and her burger.
Yeah.
And so she was like, oh, he's generous. And so that was just nice.
Yeah.
So I was nice and I paid for things.
Yeah.
And I wanted a family.
Yeah.
And I wasn't what the other guy was.
Yeah.
I wasn't obnoxious or pushy.
Yeah.
I will say this is not something that Emily knew at the time, but sometime a few months before that, I think I had finally given up trying really hard to find somebody because I was lonely and looking in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
Looking for love in all the wrong places.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, being at bars or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, are you, just for some reason there was a big disconnect with like, oh, I think this girl might be a Christian. She's kind of nice. It was really, really naive and stupid.
That's
and then
awesome.
like pursuing them in a way, like in a nice way,
Yeah.
and trying to be a gentleman
Yeah.
to women who had no concept of what that was.
Yeah. They just thought you were gay or something.
No, not necessarily. I think it actually scared a couple of them away
Yeah.
because they're just like, you are not at all what I'm
Used
to, or like, so it was scary to them. I think
Yeah.
there was one that I dated on and off for like a couple months,
Yeah.
and she said she was a Christian and whatnot, and she went to church and everything, but very evangelical kind of person.
Yeah.
Found out later that and she didn't want to date exclusively, and that was a big. I was like,
Ugh,
well,
what the heck?
and I was like, well, I'm not interested in sharing. It's like I'm interested in actually pursuing a relationship.
Right.
So I had my head on straight enough to say that.
Good.
And say I'm not going to be in a relationship where you're going to go on dates with other guys at the same time.
Yeah.
And so that ended. And I just didn't have the wisdom and the eye in the sky viewpoint to end it myself. I drew a line and didn't cross it, more or less.
Yeah.
But
You let her call it.
let her call it.
Yeah.
I didn't say, okay, I'm walking out. But it was kind of a,
I'm not going to quit. You're going to have to fire me. Type situation.
yeah, it's like, I'm interested in you. I'm interested in pursuing a relationship with you, but only under these circumstances. I'm not going to be like, okay, fine, well, you can see other guys and see what you like better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think she called me Superman or something. So it was very complimentary.
Yeah.
She was very like, oh my goodness, this amazing guy is interested in me.
Yeah.
But she didn't feel worthy of it, is the impression I got.
Yeah.
And so she left.
I got one of those one time in high school. Yeah. I mean, that happens. That does happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a girl who I wanted to date in high school who told me I was too perfect, and that's why we couldn't date. Which,
which at the time you're like, no.
yeah, exactly. No, I'm not. I swear I'm not.
I swear, I've got lots of problems.
Yeah, looking back on it though, you're like,
Well, thank goodness she left.
yeah, thinking she left, I actually was too good for her. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
And I was not that good back then.
Yeah, no.
So can you imagine now?
Yeah, well, actually, I think that girl in particular, I was right. I saw that girl, and I was like, she's not that pretty right now, but she's got prettiness in her, and she'll get pretty.
Oh, like a diamond in the rough kind of.
Yeah. Which that was, even in high school, I knew that
Pretty,
was.
you mean as in like a whole package kind of thing?
Yeah, and in high school, I knew it was really important. Not really important, but one of the ways you could get a very beautiful girl who was also not a retard or like conceited in any way was finding a girl who didn't start pretty but got pretty later.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, that's
didn't peak in high school. That
yeah,
kind of,
yeah. Didn't peak in high school.
Gotcha.
Exactly. And I knew that she was one of those. And I was right. I saw her on Instagram, like, I think probably before Emily and I met, but
Gorgeous
it was still
now.
like 6 years later.
Yeah.
She's very pretty, smart girl. I think
Called
she's
it.
like, I was like, got it, knew it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, shouts out Annie. That's her name. That was her name.
Hope you're doing well, Annie.
Yeah. I do hope you're doing well. You were,
Hope we found another perfect guy.
yeah, you were a kind person, and I made a move on her, and she looked me right in the face and said, "I'm not having sex with you." And I went, brutal. And I got out of the back seat of my car, and I got in the front seat of my car, and I hung my head and drove her home ashamed. It was the first time I'd ever been like fully rejected by a girl like that.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, she just looked me right in the face. No just stone cold, "I'm not having sex with you." And I went, damn. I thought this was a sure thing. I really thought I'd lock this one up. So she is a really good person.
So that you walked the 8 feet back to your room from the party room.
This was high school.
Okay.
Yeah. We were actually out here.
On my property?
Yeah. Yeah. No, we were just out,
Out
in
in
this
this
part
field?
of town. Yeah, we were out in this part of town. I'd gotten lost. And so
Okay.
on accident, I didn't get lost on purpose.
Gotcha.
But I'd taken her to this party. Yeah, I'd taken this party, and I had Google Maps to the party. But then I realized that my parents were going to track my phone, so I'd turn and know that I wasn't where I was supposed to be.
Oh.
So I turned my phone off, and then I couldn't get us back out. But I also couldn't turn my phone on because my parents would know I wasn't where I was supposed to be.
Oh my goodness.
So I was just like, I was in this like catch-22, and I was just like, and she was like, "You're getting lost on purpose," and I was like, "Annie, I promise you, I'm not getting lost on purpose." And then I don't remember where exactly it was that I tried to actually like make the move, but I did, and she just shut it right down.
Yeah.
Which is good for her.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
If there's any ladies listening, you need to do that.
yeah, hit them like that too. Just right, stone cold no expression.
Guys need the bluntness.
Yeah.
Don't play him along.
Yes,
And he will have a greater respect for you if he's the right kind of guy.
Yeah,
If he's not, and that's really all he's after, then he'll leave. And
Yeah.
that's good for you.
yeah. And dudes are ambitious, and dudes do have hope. So if you leave even a
Yeah, that's the thing that women don't understand about men is that if you don't flat out say no, like there was a girl I had a crush on in like middle school and
Yeah.
pursued aggressively
yeah, yeah,
for a long time and was convinced we were going to get married and all this. I was ever hopeful.
yeah,
And then finally, like her friend, who later like married one of my friends, but she like took me aside like at church in the church parking lot or out on the back. I remember where it was on the back porch and was like, "Look, she's not interested in you. Like she likes you as a friend, you know, but like she doesn't think it's ever going to go anywhere."
Yeah.
Like she told me.
yeah.
And I was like, "Oh." And I like went off into a field and like kind of was sad for a bit. But then it was like closure.
Right.
And it was better that way,
Certainly.
as opposed to me just like endlessly buying her little trinkets and, you know, the flowers of middle school, basically.
Yeah.
Trying to impress this girl
Yeah.
who I was like, okay, so it's not going to happen. I'll put my interests elsewhere.
Yeah,
So I moved on.
Yeah. If there are any women
You're
listening
doing
to this,
those guys a favor.
Yeah.
Even though it might hurt them temporarily, it's going to hurt them a whole lot more, and it'll cause you a whole lot more anxiety and grief in the
Yeah.
long run. You've got to learn to be kindly blunt, not
Yeah.
rude.
dude, be rude. Who cares? He'll be all right. Be rude.
Well, that depends on how he's been.
Yeah, that's
Maybe if
true.
he makes a move on you in a way, then like you can be firm then.
Yeah.
Being firm doesn't mean being rude.
yeah.
Like turning him down in a way that makes him feel like trash is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's
Don't be
different.
mean. Don't like call
Don't be
him a
mean.
name. and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would never ever think of even sleeping with you. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, well,
You could probably
That's
hit a guy.
uncalled for.
I think it'd be okay if you hit a guy with, I would never even consider sleeping with you. I think that's probably fine.
well, if you're going to marry somebody, then you. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That means I'm not going to do it before marriage. You're holding on to something.
Oh, yeah.
That's
yeah,
kind of
sure.
what I'm
yeah,
getting at.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like, yeah, I would never sleep with you outside marriage, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
But don't say never ever, because if you do marry them, you should be having sex.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going with it.
Okay. Yeah.
That's where I'm
Okay.
making him think like you are so unattractive that you will never
Right.
have sex with anybody. That's what it's going to say to him.
Right.
It's like, oh,
Yeah. Oh.
oh man.
Thinking just, I don't know why it's so funny, the like idea of getting rejected, like a dude getting rejected and then just being like, oh, and just like the head hanging.
Head
like,
hanging a little
like
bit.
when Annie looks at me and goes,
Just a
I'm not-
15 degrees incline of
Yeah,
the head.
just-
Oh,
oh, because I've felt
So
that moment of
sad.
sadness so many times in my life. Like,
oh.
okay. It's just it's so
Next
funny.
day, you're like, okay, back up and at him.
Yeah, nothing happened. I'm fine. Yeah, dude. I mean, that's true. You got to do that, ladies. The worst summer of my life was facilitated by a girl who would not just tell me no. Mm-hmm. And that was
Being strung along is awful for guys because we will pursue until we've been told absolutely not.
yeah.
And the wrong kind of guys, and this is for the guys who will not take a clear no for an answer, stalkers.
Yeah.
Emily's stalker.
yeah.
Yeah, and maybe she wasn't clear enough with him. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes girls can facilitate their own, like,
misery.
You can't by not just ripping
He's
the Band-Aid
going to keep
off.
pursuing you.
Yeah, and then
being
you're like,
obnoxious.
this guy's so creepy. I don't know what's going on. I'm scared of him. Like, well, you never told him no.
He's only creepy because you're not attracted to him.
Yeah.
The same behavior. That's
a
big lady
one. That's
thing.
a big one. Yeah, that's a real
The
big
same
one.
guy that you're attracted to would behave in exactly the same way, and you'd be like, "Oh, he's so attractive."
Yes. One time, this my little sister was hanging out with one of her friends, and they were at her house, and her brother, who is this squat, short, ugly guy with big eyebrows. They were watching a movie, and her friend went up to go to the bathroom, and he was sitting behind her on the couch.
Yeah.
And she was like on the floor, like sitting on the floor. And I don't remember if he said something to her or whatever, but she turned around and looked at him, and he just went on the couch. He just patted the couch next to him. Like, look at her, like, come sit up here. And she was just like, no, thank you. Like, just like turned away, dude. And she said later, she was like, it was so creepy and so weird. And I said to her, would it have been creepy or weird if he was good looking? And she was like, obviously not. She looked at me. She was like,
stupid.
Yeah,
what a stupid question.
Yeah, she was like, no, that would have been cool.
Yeah, I would have sat there.
Yeah,
really close.
yeah. I would have been like, sick. Yeah, yeah. So
hello.
Yeah, being handsome to women is not like having correct facial structure. It's just like taking a shower and getting a good haircut. Like, that's what we're talking about. Like, just take care of yourself.
Don't smell.
Yeah, don't be
Smell's a big
stinky.
thing.
Oh my goodness, dude. The amount of guys that are walking around stinky. Dude, take a shower, brother. Take a shower, trim your beard, I say, with a really untrimmed, like, crazy beard going on right now.
Really overdue.
Yeah, but yeah, take a shower, get a good haircut. Just keep yourself manicured, man. You don't even have to wear like good clothes. Like, just wear regular clothes. Just wear a nice clean t-shirt jeans and boots. Like, just look presentable. That is what girls
It's a
see.
very southern thing. Nobody in the North wears boots.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
Nobody in the Northwest wears boots.
Yeah, well then, right now I'm wearing 5-inch inseam khaki shorts and sandals, and this is when me and my wife first started dating. This is like the exact outfit I used to wear all the time.
Yeah,
she liked it. She still to this day likes the way I dress.
I wore a lot of cargo shorts. Love cargo shorts.
Yeah, but when you and Emily met, that was very in style, right? Cargo shorts. Maybe. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't care. Yeah,
I did not know.
Yeah, I mean,
I wore a lot of jean shorts too.
but you do dress up well. Like, you clean up very well. Like,
Thank
at
you.
church on Sundays, you always look very pressed and nice.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you do have a good, distinct sense of like what looks good. Like, you always are, like, the sweater you have that you wear, the full denim suit that you wear to church.
Yes,
That's pretty sick.
my wife got me that jacket.
It's nice.
Let your wife shop for you.
Yeah, let your wife shop for you. Yeah, but if you don't have a wife,
Ask a sister. Ask your
yeah,
mom.
ask
Hey,
a sister. If you don't have a sister, dude, just look it up. Go to, dude, for real, just go to polo.com, look at how the guys are dressed on that website, and then go to a thrift store and buy the clothes that will look like that.
yeah,
Just do that. It's super cheap.
not
super
that complicated.
Yeah.
You can live on the cheap and still look nice. It does not have to be a tux.
Yeah.
It does not have to be a name brand shirt necessarily.
No. Almost all my clothes today are thrifted.
Yeah.
Almost all of them. I got this at a thrift shop. I got these shorts I actually ordered, but these shorts I've had for years. But like every shirt I wear to church, thrifted. All the golf shirts I wear to church, thrifted. Like everything.
Don't over deodorize. Don't douse yourself in Axe either.
Yeah, just get a nice
Mexican
cologne.
shower.
Mexican shower. Dude, that's so funny. Bro, I was at Wingstop yesterday, and there's just so many Mexicans.
Hispanic people smell so
Oh,
strongly.
dude, there's so many Mexicans at Wingstop, and every time one of them walked by me, I was like, oh, it's just, dude, they douse themselves. It's so funny. Shout out Mexicans. You guys are the best.
Some of them smell pretty darn good.
Some of them smell pretty good, but a lot of them are
It's
just
too
like,
much.
Yeah.
Sometimes too much, and it's really easy to overdo it with the axe.
Yes,
the
dude.
spray, and there's no way to take it back.
Yes, dude. Mexican guys go ham on the body spray.
The girls do too, though.
That's true. That is true. A lot of flowery smelling young Mexican ladies.
There are some ladies smell so good though.
I had
You ever walked past one and you're like, I don't even. Oh, have you ever been out and you caught a whiff of perfume
yeah.
and you're like, I am instantly attracted to whatever that smell comes from.
Yeah,
It's such a good blend with whoever's body chemistry. And that's the other thing is sometimes your body chemistry dictates whether or not a certain deodorant or cologne will smell good on you.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because different colognes mix with your body chemistry is what I
like
think
the
I've
hormone,
heard.
like the smell of your hormones that you.
Yeah, whatever is in your body, hormones or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know enough of the science behind it.
Sure.
But like you got to try it on.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that might not work for you the way it would work for somebody else.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Yeah, I wore a
Maybe
Tommy,
I'm just blowing smoke, but
Tommy Bahama's cologne.
yeah.
I would just do 2 sprays on my neck, and that was it.
My wife and I both loved the, what is it?
Old Spice?
Old Spice. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Old Spice Timber
Yeah.
was fantastic.
That stuff will give you Alzheimer's, though. You got to be careful. It's got.
I don't use it anymore. I use like what do I have right now? I just use it's by Arm and Hammer, the same people who make baking soda.
Yeah,
It's a baking soda brand deodorant. It's
Really?
like a natural one without like the aluminum or whatever.
Nice. Very nice.
It's not a super strong smell, but it's a nice smell.
Yeah.
It's pleasant.
Yeah.
I think my sister commented on it when I was in. She's like, "Hey, what do you wear? Like that smells nice." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize anyone could really smell it. I didn't realize it was strong enough to evoke an odor that you're not like if you're not intimate with somebody, they wouldn't notice it."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the phrase, I think, I don't know how common this is, but I've heard it several times when I'm like engaging in like when I'm trying to like do research, when I'm trying to figure out what's like a nice version of something. I'm going to try to buy something nice, like a nice, I don't know, whatever. But just, you go on the thing.
Give me an example, please.
Like
Something concrete, man.
like a nice, when I had a wedding to go to a little while ago, and I wanted to buy, I needed a shirt. I needed a dress shirt. And so I was just looking at what the current, like what's out there on the market that's like a nice dress shirt that you can buy, that you'll have for years, that you can keep forever, that is nice. And I just was watching this YouTube video of this stylist on Savile Row, the in London, the place where they do all the like bespoke. There's this big Savile Row is where like all of London royalty, they go and get their like suits.
Oh, okay.
With all the tailors and stuff. And there's this guy there, and he said the phrase, cologne should be discovered, not announced.
Okay.
That's a good way to think about your smell.
Shouldn't be a punch in the face.
Yeah, it should be discovered and not announced. So you should
The
smell.
lady has to get within dancing distance to really appreciate it.
Yeah, and that is like
You got to have your hand on the small of her back before she really knows what the cologne's about.
Yeah, and that will, I guarantee you, if a young woman gets close enough to you to smell you, and
You're in.
and she smells a good smell like that, hey brother, the next couple years for you is going to be fun because she is going to be big fan of yours. So, also here's just another practical tip. This is a little PUA culture stuff. This is the only girl advice my dad ever gave me, which was if there's a girl you're into and you guys are having a conversation, look at her mouth.
Okay.
While she's talking to you, keep just glancing down at her mouth every time or like stare at it for just like a half second and look back up, or just like every once in a while, just look. Don't do it like schizophrenically, but just look from her eyes to her mouth in a kind of smooth way. I don't know. I do it to Emily all the time.
Okay.
When I'm in the mood and I want Emily to get in the mood, I'll ask her a question and stand kind of close to her and just like look at her mouth while she's talking.
Yeah.
Within 35 minutes, it's time to go. I don't know why it's so effective, dude. It's the most effective move. It's so effective.
I'm going to have to try that.
You should have to try it. Yeah. Just
They notice.
They notice. I don't know what it is. Like
well, that's tapping into the female psyche of little signals.
Right.
Body
language, stuff like that.
As opposed to just being like, Get on the bed.
Yeah. And so that kind of stuff is getting a little pickup artist-y kind of culture kind of stuff, but
Something to do with your wife.
yeah.
We're not suggesting going out and picking up girls that way.
Right, certainly. Or, I mean, I am suggesting, like, if you want to generate interest in a young woman for you, you want her to be interested in you, it's a good thing to do the first couple times you have a conversation.
Well, is it suggestive then? You're saying it works to get your wife into the bedroom.
Yeah, it
Would
works.
that possibly be a little too much for...
I don't think it's too much. I think you just got to be careful with how you're, like if it gets my wife into the bedroom because she's my wife.
Yes.
And because she's already in a mindset of like,
yes, but I mean, what I'm saying is, does that signal automatically mean let's sleep
you're saying
together?
this is like a sexual arousal thing?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I
Is
don't
it
know.
Going to cue the young lady who is not your wife into a fluster of hormonal activity.
I don't think so.
That's not healthy. That's what I'm getting
maybe.
at.
I don't know. Maybe that is a good point. I don't know. One of you guys out there
Don't
listening to
overdo
this, you should do it and see what happens. And if if it feels like there's some sort of sexual energy, shut it down.
Stop
Don't do it
doing
again.
that.
Yeah,
don't do that to her.
Yeah.
Don't
And then
awaken love before it is ready.
Yeah.
That's Song of Solomon. Song of Solomon has some good advice.
Yeah, that's a good point.
lovers.
That's a great. Yeah, you should read Song of Solomon.
Do not awaken love. And that's, don't look at pornography.
Yes.
Don't make out with girls.
That's a hard
Kissing
one. But yes,
is like marijuana. It is the gateway drug to...
Yeah, dude.
Okay, here's a tip. When you are pursuing a young lady, as you should, with the goal of determining whether or not you are going to marry each other. Mm-hmm. You are finding that out. That should not involve physical activity beyond maybe going to dances.
Yeah.
And holding hands. I don't have a problem with holding hands. I don't think that's going to lead anywhere necessarily. I am comfortable with that being an appropriate level of touch.
Yeah.
But you need to be extremely on guard, not just for yourself, but you are responsible for the physical direction the relationship takes.
Yeah.
You are responsible for her purity.
Yeah.
And if you do not respect her purity, that will follow you into marriage. It will create guilt, more so for her than for you, in the marriage bed later on, if you do not guard yourself against that. And if you've already gotten to a physical point and into a physical relationship with a young lady who you intend to marry, you need to have a serious conversation with her about why you are stopping, and that it's for God's glory and not yours, and it is for the betterment of you both going forward. And if for some reason she doesn't want to stop, then you need to pull away.
Yeah, certainly. And she'll, not only will it create guilt for her, but she'll also lose respect for you. That's a big one, I think, is that like the women need to know that you are a disciplined person who can control your own passions.
Yes.
It's a big thing for them. Big thing for them. Because safety, I think, is maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that I'm like got a PhD over here on girls, but safety seems like a pretty big priority for them when it comes to trying to figure out who they're going to be with, and safety from you is one of the things that they want to be sure that they can have. Is
you are her protector.
Yeah,
and if you do not protect her physically, if you use her, for sexual pleasure before the marriage bed, before it is intended by God. That will damage the relationship, damage the woman you are responsible for. So treat her as her father would treat her.
Yeah.
Provided she has a good father.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
And sometimes with the wrong girl, not the wrong girl, with a girl who has been treated poorly, that may come off as not caring for her, sadly.
Yeah.
Which is why it's important to have a forthright conversation about why you're doing it. Don't just stop hooking up and be like, I don't want to, I don't feel like it, whatever.
Yeah, you'll send her out some kind of weird psychological spiral.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that she's not desirable anymore, or that you found someone else, or whatever.
Yeah.
Be straight with her. Learn to communicate well and sensitively. Don't just be blunt about it in a guy way and expect her to understand.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, and I think the last thing that I feel like I want to say here is, You mentioned reading Song of Solomon. I think if there's one thing I want somebody to walk away from this episode with, it's the idea that in order to attract a good, beautiful woman that is worth having, you need to be vivacious and full of life and optimistic. You cannot be this cynical, twisted little dork. And I think that reading Song of Solomon will really instill you with a love for the female species. It will help you like girls. And I think one of the reasons why I was successful with girls throughout my life, because that has been kind of one of the defining characteristics of my life, is interacting with girls. It used to be unhealthy. After I became a Christian, it became much healthier, but it was still all that's like beside the point. Really cared about that for a long time. One of the things that really helped to make me successful with girls is that on a fundamental level, I really love girls. I just like them. I like having them around me. I like talking to them. I just like
They're
them.
lovely.
Yeah, they're lovely. They're lovely.
They're very pleasant.
Yeah, pleasant, bright little things that are
They're so sweet.
Yeah, they're so sweet and calming and thoughtful and concerned.
My 100-year-old granddad has always preferred the company of women.
Yeah.
He's like not at all interested in having men friends, which is, I think, not a good thing.
Certainly.
In a lot of ways.
Sure.
But
sure.
he's like always preferred talking to women. One thing I wanted to say that I started to say, I don't think I finished, what Emily didn't know is I was looking for love in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
I was desperate and lonely. Didn't know I was desperate, maybe.
Yeah.
But I had an engagement that fell apart when I was in paramedic school.
Yeah.
That was very hard. And then I had a couple of other girls that I dated or dated briefly.
Yeah.
Just a couple. And I finally realized that I wasn't content being single. And I was just anybody who would give me attention or hang out with me. So my bar was extremely low.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't being objective about who I was looking for. It was just like, oh, you think I'm interesting? You think I'm handsome? Whatever the reason being, you'll go out with me.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of the criteria.
Yeah.
You go out with me? Cool.
Yeah.
I will pursue you as if you want to be a housewife. Even though I haven't asked you and you haven't expressed any such desire, that's where I'm at. That's what I'm looking for. But I was looking with the wrong girls.
Yeah.
I was not content being single. And so I remember coming to the realization that I needed to be, God had me single for a reason.
Yeah.
And if you're single out there and you're listening to this and God has you single for a reason and he is preparing you for something.
Yeah.
90% of the time he's preparing you for marriage.
Sometimes maybe it's not.
Maybe not.
Maybe you're going to get so miserable you drive your car into a wall. Maybe that's what God's preparing you for.
No, God's not preparing you for that.
I'm kidding. It's a joke. That's not what God's preparing you for. I'm sorry.
Yikes.
I'm sorry, Jason. I couldn't help it.
That's all right. I've derailed you before.
So yes, God is preparing
you for something. Maybe it's a deeper service of his. Perhaps there's a monk-like existence for you in the future with a lot of purpose, Apostle Paul kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For less than 1% of the population. There's less than 0.01%.
Yeah.
You're not going to be the Apostle Paul.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're not going to be, but you could be a generational sort of.
A generational
you could
Apostle
You
Paul.
could be a C.S. Lewis type individual, for sure.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Although C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were both married.
C.S. Lewis, I think his wife died, though. They were only married for a couple of years. They got married old, like in their 50s.
Oh, okay.
And she was a widow.
And then she died?
And then she passed away.
Did he remarry after
No.
that? Or? No?
No.
And he wasn't married prior to that?
No.
Oh, wow. So he had one wife for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Oh, poor man.
Yeah.
But
he embraced it.
Immense. Yeah. So that's.
He wrote about it. He wrote about that and about the struggle. And there's writing that he has on that.
Do you know if there's a book?
I don't think there's a book. I think there's a part of a book.
Okay.
I can dig into that deeper if we think it's important and come back with a. But there is just look up C.S. Lewis singleness. Like you'll probably find it that way.
Yeah. So possibly that's your road. Most likely not.
Yeah.
The majority of men will find a wife if you are looking in the right places and you have your heart in the right place and you are seeking what God wants for you. Most of us are meant to have families.
Yeah.
So I resolved myself to not desperately seeking after any woman until God made it obvious to me.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't remember exactly what I prayed or what I resolved to, but I resolved to become content with my singleness as however long it lasted. Because the only lifelong desire that I can recall is wanting to be married and have a family.
You're right.
From an early age. Never had a big career aspiration or anything else outside of that. I was like, I just want to be married and have a family.
Yeah.
And so I had to come to the realization, just come to a mental space where I was like, well, I'm giving up to God and God will provide for me if and when that's in his plan. And it was a few months later that Emily and her family showed up at church. It was very
funny.
shortly afterwards that I gave up and gave it to God that my wife came along.
Yeah.
God's like, okay. It seemed to me that God was saying, you're ready. I wanted you to admit that you were not going to do it on your own, that
Right.
I will provide for you.
Right.
Not even a sparrow falls to the ground without God knowing about it.
Yeah. Certainly.
He's got you in his hand, and wherever you're at right now, whatever you're struggling with, God has a purpose in it, however difficult it might seem to square with that at the time you need to do that. You need to square with it and need to realize that God doesn't hate you.
Certainly.
God does not have your misery in mind, even though you may be miserable. It's your attitude about the place in life that he has you that's the problem.
Yeah. Your
And
misery
you
is
need
a
to
function.
rectify that.
Yeah. Your misery is a you problem, is not a God problem.
Yeah.
It's an attitude.
It's an attitude adjustment.
Yeah.
Give it up to God. God will provide what you need and when you need it. And if you don't think you have what you need to reorder your priorities.
Yeah.
And go, well, maybe I'm not meant to have that right now. Not meant to have that job. I'm not meant to have that girl.
Yeah.
So don't set yourself so hard on what you think you need. Because what you truly need, you have.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. The acceptance and submission precede receiving the thing that you're so desperate for. And girls can smell desperation on your breath. And if you get one-itis and start being like, well, she's the one, I got to have this one girl. She's the girl for me, obviously. That girl's she'll never be yours. She'll always be this elusive little creature. You'll be miserable. You have to be chill. You can't be desperate. There's a reason why, like, the guys who are the most successful with girls end up usually getting the most positive female attention just passively because they don't need it. They're not desperate. They're not out searching for it. They're just casual with it. So you're 100% right. You're 100% right there. Like, you need to submit to God's will and his plan. And it's the chance that in short order, after you fully do honestly submit to that plan, pretty good chance she's going to walk through the door, like right after that. So,
Or sometime after that.
yeah, or sometime.
There may be more preparation God has in your life for you.
Yeah.
Might not be right after like mine.
Yeah. Maybe you're a real piece of work and you need some time.
Yeah. Work on yourself by letting God work on you. Go to church. Pray regularly. Establish. Set yourself up for being a good husband before and a good spiritual leader. Have your spiritual house in order so that when that girl does walk into your life, or maybe she's already in your life, but she's waiting.
Yeah.
She might be interested, but she might go, I have hesitations. I like this guy a lot. He has potential,
But man,
but
is he
I'm afraid to
retarded.
tie myself to him
Yeah.
because I don't think he's ready for taking care of me.
Yeah. Do something like memorize the 10 Commandments. Something like that.
Yeah, memorize the 10 Commandments. That's a good place to start. develop a regular reading plan, because when you're married, you need to be leading your wife in regular devotion and prayer.
Yeah.
And when you have children, you need to be doing the same thing. I think there was a Ligonier series. I don't remember the teaching fellow who did it, but it was about family devotion. And he was talking about how not to beat yourself up about it when you have a bad week and you guys only get to a family devotion 2 or 3 times, or maybe even once, maybe not at all because it was a hectic week.
Yeah.
I was not able to establish a regular family devotion and keep to it faithfully until we moved to Texas, and I didn't work for 4 or 5 months straight.
Yeah.
And so we established it, and we read a chapter of the Bible virtually every day except Sunday. And when we don't, we sing a hymn or 2 or 3, and we at least pray as a family every evening. Sometimes it was in the morning. It just depends on whatever works for your schedule, and that might change with whatever job you had. I was working shift work before, and so that's what made it so difficult. Long hours to where I was gone when it was dark in the morning until after it was dark at night. Mm-hmm. The kids I didn't see for 2 or 3 days at a time because they'd be asleep when I left and asleep when I got back, and my wife was worn out. It wasn't a good fit. It was difficult. So shout out to anyone who's going through that right now. And maybe it's something where you need to consider a career change because it's for the spiritual betterment of your family.
Yeah.
And so that's what we were trying to get out of. Tried to get out of it in Oregon. Couldn't afford to stop doing the job I was doing because I had too much seniority. I couldn't start any other job and make enough money to provide for my family without going into debt.
Yeah.
So, you got a house payment and diapers and food to buy.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah.
So finally got the boot out the door with the vaccine mandate and moved to a place where it was cheaper and we could afford to buy, and live more within our means.
Yeah.
And even have some time off to get that habit established. So do what you need to. Consider career change, consider relocation prayerfully. Talk to your pastor about it. Couples that, you respect. That's the place to start.
Yeah.
Talk to people whose family life you respect and ask them what their habits are, what it took to establish those habits, and then work towards it without getting discouraged over the failures.
Yeah.
Take them as lessons and learn from them.
Yeah. And it just doesn't have to be complicated. It does not have to be hard.
No, it doesn't have to be in-depth. And I know we tried to find kid-friendly curriculum.
Yeah.
And study guides and things.
Yeah.
This is for kids, and put it on their level. And finally, we don't do that anymore. I just read a chapter of the Bible, and we have a study Bible, and so sometimes I'll read the notes.
Yeah.
And dumb things down for them. Not in a stupid way, not dumb things down, but I talk about, when they were younger, it was just explaining words they didn't know.
Yeah.
in the text.
Yeah.
And that was about it.
Yeah.
And starting in books that had stories to them, that wasn't deep theology, not like prophecy books,
right,
where it got really hairy and really boring for kids where they don't know what's going on. Start with the story. Start with the Gospels. That's what we did. We read through all 4 Gospels. It's just the story of Jesus over and over again from different perspectives and with different points being brought out. And a lot of it is just vocabulary building until they could understand. My kids can tell you what a sojourner is now.
Nice.
Because we talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what is a sojourner? What does it mean to sojourn? They're like, it means to live in a place where you don't come from. It's like they know now.
Yeah.
But it took a few lessons, a few times going over it, repetition. You're teaching them the basics. And they have to understand the language before they understand the concepts behind the language.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was education on more than a spiritual level. It was just a practical English lesson.
Yeah.
But we've built on that. It's been 2-3 years now.
Yeah.
We've been doing regular family devotions.
Yeah.
We've reread a couple of books.
If you're really fat, or you're just generally very unhealthy, a properly oriented person who's trying to help you get healthier, the very first things they'll ever advise you to do is just go on walks. Just to start. Just go on little walks. They don't have to be
not hikes.
Yeah, just a little walk. Just walk for 10 minutes. And who doesn't like a nice stroll? Nice light walk in the morning, 10, 20 minutes. And
whatever you can manage. If you're truly obese and get winded after 5 minutes, start at 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's fine.
Walk down the block and come back.
Yeah, and that expands.
Do it every day.
Yeah, every day. Just do a little walk. And that principle expands out to everything. If you're trying to radically reorganize your life, whether it be to lose weight or become a viable husband to a woman, whatever it is you're trying to do, just you're not going to do it overnight. Like, have the humility to recognize that
you don't get to be a bodybuilder overnight.
Yeah.
That guy started out with light weights.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, the most I ever deadlifted was 700 pounds. And it took me 7 years of deadlifting, I don't know, hundreds of times a week, like hundreds of repetitions a week, not hundreds, but close to hundreds of repetitions a week for 7 years to get that much, to get to that weight. And that was people stopping at the gym to talk to me. Like 700-pound deadlift is elite, competitive. Like, that's big.
It's a ridiculous amount of weight.
Yeah, and it was and it took me almost a decade to get there. So it's going to take time. It's going to take time. If you're in your early 20s, dude, I mean, just prepare yourself. It's going to take 7 years to really to go from a Chipotle working, porn addicted loser to being someone worth marrying. It's going to take you half a decade to correct yourself, possibly. And
but you have to get started.
Yeah. Just go to church once every other week, twice a month, go to church. Try that. Try just praying before you go to bed. Try that.
Or whenever you think of it.
Yeah. Whenever you think of it. Yeah. You don't even have to make it a repetitive thing.
Big ritual.
Yeah, just anytime
get
you
in the
think
habit of talking to God.
Yeah.
When you're struggling with something, when you're upset, teach yourself to pray in that moment.
Yeah.
I'm upset, therefore I will cry out to God.
Right.
If you get that mental pathway built up, it will become habitual so that you will automatically, when you stub your toe and swear about it, you'll automatically go, God, I'm sorry.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I mean, dude, I used to.
Please give me strength to control myself.
Every time something good happens to me, I used to be like, dude, I'm him. I'm the man.
Yeah,
I'm the best person that's ever existed. I'm so talented. I'm so cool. She loves me. I'm the coolest guy. I closed this deal. I'm the man. This is all me. But now, after 5 years of being a Christian, or 7 years of being a Christian, when something good happens, I go, thank you.
Yeah, praise God.
Yeah, praise God. Thank you. Oh my goodness, you're so good to us. Thank you so much. And I wasn't like that when I first got 2 years into being a Christian. I was still like, I'm him. Yeah. I'm the best guy that's ever done this. I'm so cool. And God had to
all hail.
Yeah, me.
Ethan.
Yeah, me. I'm the king. Yeah, and so, but it took a long time for me to get out of even just doing that. So just be patient with yourself. Be humble enough to know that if you're trying to radically change your life, it's going to take a long, long time to do.
Any good start is a good start. Any start is a good start. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I was talking with my brother-in-law yesterday, and I was like, we've talked about this, about getting tired with people complaining and not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
Like, just start.
Right.
Do something.
Anything.
Yeah. Almost anything is better than no activity.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's just...
And I only say almost anything because sometimes you can do something radically bad.
Yeah, that's right. I guess you could.
You could do something radically worse than nothing.
Yeah.
Destructive as opposed to beneficial. But I'm talking about any step in the right direction is a good step to take.
Yeah.
And if you can follow it with another step, even if it's a month later, that's another step you took.
Mm-hmm.
Pray that your priorities will change and that what you value will be what God values.
Yeah.
Ask God to give you his heart instead of your heart, to make your heart a heart of flesh instead of a heart of stone, and just to change you.
Yeah.
Ask God to change you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's vital. It's incredibly important that you do it, and it really isn't that hard. It's again incredibly important that you make those changes, that you get that done, and it really isn't that hard because you can take it at your own pace, and you will change at God's good pleasure, not at your own. No matter how hard you sort of rattle against the cage and try to make yourself better than you are, it's not going to happen. And God seems to be perfectly willing. I mean, at least in my experience, God seems to be perfectly willing to take a long time to make changes in your life. And you have to be willing to accept that. There's just no way around it.
It's a slow grind.
Slow grind, baby. Speaking of slow grinds, hour and a half. I think that's a good time.
We're there.
Yeah.
Some good stuff.
Yeah. How do you
Hopefully
feel?
it's beneficial for all y'all.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think it was a good episode. We're
Almost
growing.
an hour and a half.
Yeah. All right, guys. Go to church. Find a family. Not find a family. Sorry. Find a wife. Have a family. Raise them as Christians. Build a community. We can't. I think if there's one thing, I think that Jason and I probably could not possibly hammer enough. It's just go to church. Please, just go to church.
And stay afterwards and talk with people.
Yes. Yes.
Develop relationship. Develop community.
Yeah.
As Christians experience more and more push into the outside of society, and it's not a Christian society anymore, so you need to find that society and build that community. That community needs you, and you need that community. God created us to be social beings, and
Social beans.
social beings,
Social beans.
cool beans.
And cool beans.
So build it.
Yeah.
Build it, and they will come.
Yes. Exactly. All right, guys. We love you. See you next week. Bye.